7 of the 9 islands in the Azores island chain contain active volcanoes, with only the islands of Corvo and Santa Maria being extinct. This volcanic nature was reminded to the island's inhabitants when a swarm of several thousand earthquakes occurred in the time span of a week on the island of São Jorge in March of 2022, with the quakes being caused by a fresh intrusion of magma representing more than 10 million cubic meters of material at a depth of several kilometers. Luckily, that intrusion stalled, although the area above it is still the site of an elevated number of earthquakes. Because of this, another volcano in the Azores island chain that is also producing suspicious signs has somewhat slipped under the radar of many news agencies, despite the fact that it has been at a raised alert level ever since August 1st of 2022, Terceira. This initial increase in alert level was caused by an elevated rate of magnitude 1.5 or higher earthquakes occurring, which beforehand occurred at a rate of 1 every 5 months, but afterwards occurred at a rate of 3 to 5 a month underneath sections of the Santa Barbara volcanic cone. Since then, the number of earthquakes has very slowly, albeit somewhat exponentially, continued to increase, as best shown via this chart. This fact has become all the more pronounced since April 30 of 2023, when I received a half-dozen messages from various citizens who lived on the island of Terceira who were concerned by earthquakes which struck on that day. Although the magnitude 2.7 and 3.6 quakes which occurred that day were not all that remarkable, what is important is that they represented the 2 largest quakes thus far, since it appears that Santa Barbara's hydrothermal system seemingly reactivated. Following this, the last 7 days in May have been the site of 10 volcanotectonic earthquakes, which is a record high in the 2020s beneath this volcanic cone. And now, the majority of days in Terceira are producing at least one volcanic earthquake large enough to be felt on a section of the island. As a quick note, everything for the rest of this video which I'm about to say is highly speculative and not currently proven by facts. With this being said, here is my opinion-based analysis on the situation. Despite the lack of uplift which, do not worry, I have looked for every week during 2023 but not detected on Terceira, in my opinion, magma still might be moving underneath this volcano. My best educated guess would place a 1600 meter long sill beneath a section of Santa Barbara's western flank at a depth of 6 to 8 kilometers. In an attempt to explain why uplift is not occurring, I suggest that new material is stopping within a largely empty magma chamber which might be presently refilling. Now, while this could technically eventually result in a new volcanic eruption which would have an explosive component to it, odds suggest that a volcanic eruption will most likely not occur, and whatever is going on underneath this volcano will eventually fade without an eruption. For some context, Terceira has been the site of 11 earthquake storms or elevated periods of seismic activity underneath various volcanic centers on the island ever since it was settled by Europeans in the 1500s. Occurring at a rate of once every 45 years or so, only 3 of these 11 periods resulted in a volcanic eruption, with submarine eruptions occurring in 1867 and 1998 to 2000, and a land-based eruption in 1761. Since the current earthquakes are not centered offshore, I want to note that it appears somewhat similar to the preceding earthquake sequence in 1760. In the year before Terceira erupted, a slow, albeit somewhat exponential increase in earthquakes occurred month over month until finally the rate produced a very large spike. However, that sequence produced 2 things that the ongoing sequence so far has not. 1, it produced ground deformation. And 2, although not for a known reason, it caused a series of fumaroles at the Furnace and Axofray site to suddenly produce less rather than more gas while this was ongoing. At the present, gas emissions have not singly changed. Now, with all of this being said, the current earthquake sequence could simply be explained by a change in the volcano's hydrothermal system without a fresh intrusion of magma occurring. We simply do not know yet. Because of all this activity, on my 0 to 10 opinion-based volcanic unrest scale, I would place Terceira as a 3. Thanks for watching. If you would like to request a specific topic, please leave a comment below. Additionally, I would like to thank this channel's patrons on Patreon and channel members on YouTube.